We recently had the need to rent a car, and we ended up with a Toyota Camry, model year 2021 in North America, for what difference that makes. And I thought I'd just do a quick review because that's kind of what I do on the channel, and this could be of help to someone somewhere. So far, I am not the one who has been driving it, so I don't have too much experience. We will be going for a drive with it, but let's look at a few things off the rip. I will say this is going to be biased in that I am coming from a Subaru Forester background, SUV versus a sedan, but right off the rip, the cabin is cramped. Now, it is a sedan, and I understand that. This is probably the first time in my life the top of the steering wheel is right at my chin level. I mean, I am sitting in this car. I'm going to have you right at my eye level here, and you are down in this car. Additionally, the windows, while large, are at a very prominent angle, so you're looking through like a tanker viewport. It's quite restricting. Now, to be fair, again, Subaru Forester, read any review and you're very likely to see the word greenhouse. The Forester is very much a greenhouse on wheels. It has an incredible amount of vision out every window. So just something I noticed right off the rip, it's quite cramped, both looking out and sitting in. The seat, it's plush, I'll give you that. Unfortunately, you can see, I mean, I have 2 inches of clearance between my knee and the steering column. I do wear what's called a, Batman utility belt. Thank you, coworkers. I have a belt cell phone holder on the right side. I have my earbuds and a flashlight and a Swiss Army knife on the left side. Getting in and out of this car the 3 times that I have before making this video, I have snagged on both sides of my belt. I'm 200 pounds, 5'11". I'm not a big guy. It's quite cramped. Now, you'll be able to adjust the seats to do what you can with that, but just be aware, this is not for maybe older people, for people with hip issues, leg issues, mobility issues, inability to pull themselves out of cars, which leads us to the other thing I noticed. See how I can hold the door? See how I can't? I literally have to lean. My shoulder is exiting the vehicle to just barely get 2 fingers on that door to close it. And that is a wide, heavy door. So you're going to need a lot of torque and leverage, basically sitting upright. So I'm leaning forward as I right my body up. That's going to give me the leverage to close the door. Again, I'm not a, feeble, older, I like to think I'm in decent shape and I'm in middle age, but it could very much become an issue. So as beneficial as test drives are and YouTube videos are, sit in one of these and just understand the mechanical operations of, you're going to be opening and closing that door at least twice a drive, right? So make sure that you can operate that door and you can do it easily, and you can do it, my next issue, in the dark. These may or may not be illuminated. They weren't the times I used them, or they weren't good enough to let me know where the hole for the handle is. So you could have put one here that you could get the door started and then continue closing it. By all that, I mean, when I used this car the first time, it was in the dark because, oh yeah, it's winter and darkness comes with winter and getting older. So trying to find a black handle on a black door in midnight dark, 5 p.m. Ohio winter darkness is unideal. And that's as much learning the car as much as you have accents right here. You couldn't put silver here to tell me that that's where the handle is. Okay. So going to the car itself, I will say I'm not a fan of the touchscreens. This guy is going to be, looks like maybe a 7-inch. It looks tacked on, probably because it's tacked on. I can get my fingers behind it. I can get my fingers up through here. So it almost seems like they just tacked it into place, not really ergonomically built into the bodywork, I would say. kind of have this weird stylistic thing. I guess it's a support column or something. The car would feel more cavernous. It wouldn't be, but it would feel more cavernous if this opening just continued all the way across. But now you have some modern art expo thing. I don't know. The other thing you'll notice here is all the glare. Now, the glare in the sun is a problem, but also your fingerprints and scratches are going to show up on it much easier. Glue adhesive is going to show up much easier and be more difficult to get rid of and clean, and requiring cleaning and getting rid of more often. So not really a selling point for me. Maybe that's classy. Maybe that's something you like. I don't see it as a selling point. The next thing I see is our vents are quite small. We're looking 2 inches by probably 4 inches, probably adequate. I will say there's enough space in between the door and the steering wheel that this guy is unobstructed. It can basically blow directly on you, bypassing even your hands in the way, which is something I can't necessarily say for the Subaru. There is not a straight line in between here and there. My OCD is maybe a little more aggressive than yours, but we have a vent, and a vent. Again, biased Subaru. Mine is completely inverted. My vents are up top, my screen is down below, and my screen is built into the architecture of my car, not haphazardly purchased third party and then slapped into place. So for what that's worth. Probably perfectly adequate. I do like it a little higher up because that's going to allow me to blow the air more efficiently and effectively between the seats to the back seat. For what that's worth, we do have 2 kids under the age of 5. I wouldn't recommend it. It does get cold in Ohio, and more importantly, it gets hotter in the summer. So the ability to get air from up front to the back more efficiently is of premium to me. And then you have that guy there, which in the passenger seat is going to occupy not a small amount of your dash. The dash is flat, which is something I'm seeing more and more. They're not. They're usually curved. I imagine that's a safety thing because it turns out you have airbags sometimes up here. And when you have, say, a Atlas or a road map sitting up there, it tends to interfere with that. So they don't necessarily want you using it as a storage shelf, but it is flat for use as a storage shelf. Let's go ahead and turn it on. We have all the lights. Not ready to drive. We have Toyota. All sorts of lights everywhere. Again, if I'm being anal retentive, which I am, you should know that by now. We have yellows and greens and whites and blues and blacks and reds, and it's distracting. It's not intuitive, I would say. I was going to shame this. On my most recent drive, the background was white. Now it's black. Again, bias, I set most of my devices to dark mode, black background, white text. It's less distracting, especially when you're driving a car. So look at what they did here. They have a black background with white text. It's high enough contrast that you can see what you're doing without being blinded at night. So I imagine it's detecting either through a light sensor or knowing what time it is when it should and shouldn't be using different background colors. So I'll give Toyota credit for that. We do have a couple of safety suites. We have the front-end collision prevention and the lane assist and stuff like that. I'm more analog, I suppose. I have a manual transmission Subaru. I row my own gears. I'm in control of my own car. My blind spot detection is rotating and pivoting my head to check my blind spots. So I don't like them, but on this model, at very least, in this trim, at very least, it is something that is there. So, let's see. So it's like a half-second delay. Not the fastest. Seems smooth enough. It is a touchscreen with some physical buttons on the side. I respect that. We have a physical power button and a rotary knob. I do like the analog knobs. I do like that they maintained some of the knobs for the fan speed and the temperature control in a more and more Bluetooth, wireless, touchscreen, blah, blah, blah. It's not an appliance, it's a car. Let me be able to blindly, while driving and maintaining vision on the road, be able to grab the closest knob that I know is my temperature and rotate it. I don't need to go into settings, temperature, heated seats, no. Cabin, yes. Front or rear, turn on the air. Jeez. Anyways, so I do like that there is a healthy mix between touchscreen and physical buttons. Let's see what else we got. Not installed. It's not the most responsive. The buttons are proud, so you can feel them and know that you're touching them to then put in an input. Seems nice enough. If you're sitting where I, the driver, am, you are going to get a little bit of glare off the screen in addition to the different matte finishes and reflective surfaces around that. And you'll notice there is no sun today. So it's not even super bright during the winter before the sun is setting, and you're already getting some rather distracting, says I, glare. So something to keep in mind as well. Let's see what else we have. The selector knob is close enough that I can rest my elbow on the armrest and be able to put it through the gears, no problem. We do have a sport mode. When you bring it over, you can manually up and down shift, for those who know how to or what to do with that. There is a push button here. It will not open unless you push the button, and you have a not cavernous storage cubby here. I would say probably 7 inches across by a foot. It is not illuminated, but you do have some charging ports. So we have a USB-A and a USB-C, and you can cover those. They're not spring-loaded. I thought they might be. So you have USB-A and C, and you can flip those up. We have a hole there, which, yeah, that's for the locking mechanism, which is quite proud. You'll see that's... and just so you guys know what I'm doing, every joint on your finger is about 1 inch. So that's about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches proud, which means that's going to eat up the height, or more importantly, or more correctly, the depth of your storage cubby right there. So keep that in mind. It is curved in a way where it kind of prioritizes the driver more than the passenger, but that's good because the passenger should know their place. While we are here, the rear view mirror and the rear window is crap. It's at a very prominent angle. I mean, we're talking like a 60, 70 degree angle, probably for aerodynamics and fuel efficiency, which according to the internet, you're going to be getting high 30s mixed, which is very good. Front wheel drive, 203 horsepower, I believe, for this make and model year. But it's not great. I don't even know if there is a rear wiper. It doesn't really seem to be. Let's see. Nope, that seems to be for the front. So if there is one, I'm not sure how to get to it yet. And even if not, you know, you're driving in the rain, you're driving with traffic, you don't really have time to be figuring out if your, you know, window can be clearer. That car just went by, you could see it was coming through here and you could barely tell it was there, but it is tunnel vision. For starters, this rear view is 2 inches tall. It's quite small. Again, bias coming from an SUV, everything should be bigger. Giggity. The angle and the fact that it has the heating elements to act as a defroster is going to dramatically cut into what already narrow, restricted, tunnel visioned vision you would have had coming out the window to begin with. Oh yeah, and another thing, more a point against Enterprise as a rental company versus Toyota as a car manufacturer. When I got this car, you could not see out of the windows at night. The condensation, fog, probably vaping, considering it's a rental car. It took 4 minutes with a number of paper towels, and rubbing alcohol to scrub the interior and exterior of these windows, and it made a massive difference. So again, more a ding against Enterprise as a rental company and the safety of the people that they're renting their cars to. It'd be a great way to prevent people from causing accidents in your vehicles if you kept them safe, but also to you, the viewer. This is my tip for the video. Rubbing alcohol. It will break down the oils and the I think it's called degassing. As you have UV light and sun beating down on this plastic, it is going to start venting. It's going to start breaking down and releasing vapors into the air. Well, what's right above it? Your window. So as those gases will start going into the air, they're going to cling to the first surface they can, which is your glass window, and they're going to start building up over time. So not so much the humidity in your vehicle as much as think of it like dust on a shelf. The more often you knock it off, the cleaner it's going to be. Well, in this case, it's not, oh, look how pretty that shelf is. It's, oh, look, there's a deer that you wouldn't have been able to see before. So little trick there for all of your vehicles. Rubbing alcohol, maybe once a month, and you'd be good to go. And to continue that point, this window I did not do compared to this one I did probably 2 days ago. So very noticeable difference between them. This is just a buildup of admittedly condensation currently, but also of not being cleaned and darn near anyway. So we are now in the back seat, and if you needed a more visual indicator of how cramped it is inside here, the chair actually maxes out against the ceiling with your headrest height. So other than that, again, I am 5'11", and I have 5 inches in front of my knees. Actually rather spacious back here. I will be installing some car seats here very shortly, and I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue to get them in here. From a seating position, this is actually pretty deep. You got a 3-inch deep armrest here. Again, you really don't have an indicator in the dark of where your door handle is. It is easier to operate without having to lean out of the car to get these. And then your center seat is least comfortable, but it is a flip down dual cup holder, and the height between that arm and this arm is different, which tingles my OCD, but it's actually quite spacious and it's pretty comfortable. Some kind of leather, fake leather material even back here. You have a little bit of cloth here and then leather around it. You have a little bit of cloth here and leather around it. So you have leather here that's going to be cold in the winter, hot in the summer, and stick to suckers and candy a little easier. Not my preference, but there we go. Up front here, we have storage that runs pretty deep. I would say probably 6 inches deep there. We do have a storage cubby here that is not big enough to hold a phone. I suppose you could put one in like this, but you're not going to get one sideways. I do not see any charging ports or anything down here, maybe on a higher trim level. But honestly, like I said, I mean, this is a good amount of space in between the seat and my knees from my seated position up in front. Plenty of space to, I mean, I am uncomfortably extending my legs forward, and I have all that space. So I can have one leg down like this or one leg up here, and I have plenty of space to, on longer car drives, be able to move my legs around and not get restless leg syndrome. So that's pretty nice. What else do we have back here? Yeah, the cabin light or holy crap handles. That'll help with getting in and out of the car. And then we do have a, I mean, so this is going to be double-edged, and you'll see when I show you the trunk. But man, that window is small. So let's see. It is a big window. The usable amount is small. So if I start here, that's 3 inches to here is, I mean, you have essentially a 10-inch tall slot to act as a window when that window is probably 2.5, 3 feet long. So it's kind of the computer mouse syndrome where everything has to be aerodynamic and less drag, but you are restricting the amount of light coming into your car, and a lot of stuff happens behind your car. But this is what I would also call pretty wasted space. You could use this as a shelf, but you don't have any viewport here to begin with. So the more stuff you stack here, the less you're going to be seeing out that window. The benefit to this is you're going to have a rather spacious trunk, and I will be showing you that here shortly as well. We also have some of the anchor points for the car seats. That is good to know because I will be installing car seats. It doesn't instill the most confidence. Okay, so they did put that into a cross member or a support beam. This is a very tinny, plasticky, drum heady material. Not the most confidence instilling for putting any kind of weight up there, which again is going to be mitigated by the fact that you shouldn't be putting anything up there anyways, or you'll be doing yourself a disservice. But the anchoring points are actually into a metal cross member. So I suppose the last thing we have is these headrests are in no way adjustable from what I can tell. So that's what we got for the cabin. Let's move to the outside. All right, getting out of the car, here's something I noticed too. Again, bias Subaru Forester. This door don't open. If this is 90 degrees, this is sitting at like maybe 50 degrees. I almost bounced off the door trying to get out of it. So the rear doors don't open very wide. We are going to, that's another thing too. Given the curvature of the car, any rain that you hypothetically, but also in reality with this video, may or may not be getting is going to drip directly onto your leather seats. Moving to the back of the car, Toyota, I'm going to give you props. You put the gas tank on the correct side of the car, on the driver's side. Why would you ever put it on the passenger side? Moving to the trunk, there's a button you push and hold on the keys, which gotta say I'm not overly fond of. There is not a release mechanism, a manual release mechanism on the trunk itself, but I mean, I could fit 1 or 2 human bodies back here if you pile them in correctly, so it's actually quite spacious. If I'm here, which I am, I had to lean forward quite a ways to get up there. So we're looking probably 4 feet deep, maybe 3 feet deep. And they didn't kill any of your space on the sides here. So actually a rather spacious trunk considering it's a sedan. We have a hook. It says we have a hook, but we don't. We have a pull knob here to drop the seats. And then I guess you have to finish it. So that just releases it. Good to know. Lift this up. You have some odds and ends, some tools that no one knows how to use. And then the spare tire for when you call your dad to swap out your tire. To their credit, they do have some noise deadening material right there. So I imagine that'll help with the ample noise that sedans are known to have. And then we do have, as law requires, a release mechanism on the inside in case you get stuck in. We have a couple of cargo hooks if you had netting or a retention system to keep things packed into place. But all in all, it's actually quite spacious in here considering it's a sedan. Just started the car. I'm going to turn off the fan. So now the only thing we can hear is the idling, not warm engine. Honestly, pretty quiet. I do like that. I also like for this trim level anyways, it is a keyed ignition. It's not push button. So I know where my keys are and I know how to operate it because most vehicles for the last 40, 50 years have had that. I do like that they are still relying on a manual key. Backup camera was nice, clear, and crisp. Another tip for the video, use white lithium grease or silicone, white silicone, to spray, or more appropriately use on a paper towel and wipe down your backup camera. It's hydrophobic. It will reject snow, ice, frost, and water from rain and mud and all that stuff. So you are less likely to have as big of an issue with being able to see out of your backup camera because it is less likely to have crap on it. You are going to be more so hearing the rain over the drivetrain, and that is because, yes, the rain is loud, but also the drivetrain is not. So, it's kind of unfair. I can't say if it is the ambient noise, the road noise, the tires, what have you, since we are sloshing water under the car, but it's pretty quiet. Especially, again, bias Subaru Forester, large SUV that I've spent 10 videos soundproofing. Check those out on my channel if that is in any way of interest to you. But so far I would say it's pretty quiet. I believe it is a automatic transmission, not a CVT, so it will have individual gears. I suppose I could test that out. Yes, so there is a dramatic, instantaneous RPM drop, which suggests to me that it is a automatic transmission versus a CVT. Not a fan of CVTs in a vehicle this small. It is less likely to be an issue, but relying on a rubber band that by design is supposed to stretch and change with the weight and acceleration of your vehicle is unideal. The wife's 125cc moped scooter relies on it, and rightly so. It weighs 130 pounds, but putting it in a vehicle to me is asking for trouble. There are three ways to tell when your vehicle is shifting. One is the RPMs dropping, the pitch of your vehicle. The second one is, of course, your tachometer. It was at 2,000, now it's showing 1,500 RPM, so you know that a gear shift has been made. And the third one is feeling it. Luckily, this vehicle only has two of those, so I could hear it and I could see it, but I do not feel any lurching or misstepping or lack of smoothness, I suppose, when it's making its gear changes. So I do like that. Honestly, it's pretty quiet. It's responsive. It doesn't have raw horsepower, which I appreciate. I'm more of a eco-friendly eco driver kind of thing, so I'm not looking to lead foot anything. I'm more interested in saving gas than maybe having smiles while driving. That's what the motorcycles are for. But I mean, it handles as it should. Granted, I've had a left turn and a right turn so far, but nothing seems squirrely, seems well controlled. We do have a couple of items in the safety suite. We have the lane, staying in the lane, protection, assisting thing, and the fronting collision prevention and all that stuff. I hope to not be testing any of that during the drive today. I cannot show you as I am driving, but on the display there is a 10-minute bar graph that is showing you 0, 10, 20, 30, 40 miles per gallon, and it is showing 10 bars at a time, so that is 1 minute intervals for those of you playing along at home. And it will show you instantaneous fuel efficiency readings. Again, as a bit of a eco guy, I do like that. How do I go through? Alright, so it looks like the display in the middle of the dashboard is either unintuitive or is something that I cannot make adjustments to, and I'd really rather not learn while I'm driving in the rain. So I would prefer more of like a second by second fuel efficiency thing, but this is something. I can turn this down. If I floor it, there's maybe a half-second delay as it up or downshifts 2 or 3 gears and then gets me on my way. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the vision out of it is not ideal. I suppose that's what you get with sedans, but I feel like I already know the footprint of the vehicle, and I know its lane placement, and nothing seems squirrely to me. It seems well dampened and controlled. So even going over the bridge and all, it's not rattling or anything like that. So they may have some sound deadening in here. I don't know what trim level this is per se, but steering wheel, on a personal note, I would say it's wide, which helps you with your micro controls, micro inputs, but it's very close to me. My elbows are sitting at maybe a 70-degree angle, so I don't know if this is a collapsing steering column or a extending one, so I don't know if I can push it away from me, but man, do I feel like the steering wheel is right up in my rib cage. And again, I'm 5'11", 200 pounds. I'm not a big guy. I'm not a small guy. That said, it doesn't interfere with how I can integrate with or control the vehicle. So it's something I maybe wouldn't notice unless I stepped out of my SUV and into this one, which happens to be the case. That's about what we got. More rain and less light. So let me go ahead and cut back to being at home. On a hunch, I was just driving down a 45 mile an hour road, and the center screen, which I have just recently figured out works, started indicating 45 miles an hour. That's interesting. As I approach the stop, the center screen now has a red stop sign. So it would appear to me that this car relies on cameras versus a radar to detect where it is in the lanes and what's coming up. So right there is a 40 mile an hour sign. As I approach it, right now, the car is detecting and indicating to me a 40 mile per hour zone. It's also indicating it is registering a white line to the right and the center line to the left. And that keeps cutting in and out, which is why I say it is indicating that it knows it is there. The line is, of course, going to be there, but it is showing you visually that the camera system and the car is recognizing the existence of those things. As I'm approaching this intersection, there's clearly stop signs as I'm approaching it. I have 40 miles per hour and a stop sign icon next to it. Very interesting. We are just getting home, and one of the things I noticed, the only dome light I have is the dome light. The map lights do not come on. So everything up here is less bright than what my phone is showing you, but you're basically looking into the dark here, especially when the dome light cuts out. Another thing is my Subaru is intuitive in that if I want to turn the light on, I hit the light. I hit the light. I hit the light. Instead, the light button is a good 2.5 inches diagonal to the light that I want to hit. So you, again, have a black button on a black background to try and fondle. I guess the easiest way is to run your thumb around until you can find it. With the map light on and map light off, they do make a difference, but it's a very white. It's very dim. Like it's sufficient. I mean, you'd be able to see if you dropped your keys or a water bottle or something down there, but they're not the brightest. They're not the largest. I mean, they're the size of, they're 1 inch by 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. They're not super wide. They're sufficient, but I guess, again, bias Subaru, I can illuminate the entire cabin with my one map light, which is not the case with this one. And you already have the lights here. They already function. Why would you not wire them in to work with your door and with the dome light? I don't understand. I suppose the last thing we have, okay, and wow, so we have a rather heavy hood that you have to manually connect, which I don't think my last 2 cars have needed that. This is a 2022, so all right. Very heavy hood, actually, heavier than the Subaru, or the Subaru has struts that will help with opening it and hold it in place, as I was just saying. Underneath, we have a inline 4, it appears. Let's do a super wide. I mean, there's not a lot of space. I can see to the bottom of the vanity cover, for what that's worth in some places. But it's a pretty straightforward layout, it seems. So it is an inline 4. We have the belt on the side instead of the Subaru, where all the accessory stuff is on the front. Battery right up top, which is very nice. Relays and fuses, easy to get to. Brake fluid, easy to check and fill. The windshield wiper fluid, easy enough to get to. So I'd say things are laid out pretty simply. We have our alternator here, our air compressor, or sorry, the AC compressor, air conditioning compressor down there. Seems easy enough to get to. I'm going to assume this is the intake, as it is plastic and is a cooler temperature than the exhaust. So that seems to be a little bit backwards from every car I've owned. It's usually the air intake is in the back and it kicks out the front. So very weird. 0W16, I don't know that I've ever heard of that. Different oil, but everything seems pretty compact, but easily identifiable, accessible, and replaceable, which is pretty nice. I mean, it's a very wide, relatively narrow. I'd say it's comparable to the Subaru. The Subaru seems to be a more intuitive layout, but nothing in here seems ridiculously like the wife's Chevy Equinox had the computer on top of the battery, so you had to remove a bunch of stuff to replace a battery that every 3 to 5 years are going to be replacing, at risking damage to the cables and sensor misreadings and all that stuff to replace a battery. Kind of stupid. We do have the oil dipstick there and the oil fill here, so seems pretty well laid out, I suppose.